Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am here with my ML Class W164 chassis Mercedes-Benz, and I'm going to show you how to safely replace the main battery in this vehicle today. So a quick look at the tools required before we start this job. You're going to need a magnet on a stick, or alternatively, if you don't have one of those, set of long nose, needle nose pliers would be good. 10mm socket, 13mm socket, and as you can see I've got a large extension bar there. And then finally, I've got some sticky tape. Now, I'll show you a little bit of a trick when we get into the video on how to use that. So unfortunately, Mercedes, in their infinite wisdom, put the main battery under the front right-hand seat in the vehicle. So to get to the main battery, we need to move the seat all the way forward. And then with the seat all the way forward, we lift the seat all the way up. So at this point, we want to power down all of the auxiliary devices. So switch off the entertainment system, switch off the climate system, and then turn the ignition off and remove the key. Now at this stage, I will highlight there is no need to put external power to the vehicle during this procedure. I have heard of some people using a jump starter device to put power to the jump starter terminals in the vehicle under the bonnet right here. Well, in fact, you shouldn't do that, folks, and Mercedes do not recommend to do that, as you could actually blow some of your important fuses in the vehicle when you're disconnecting and removing the batteries. So with that seat moved all the way forward, we can start to get access to the battery compartment. So to start with, we will remove this plastic trim, and then we can remove this air duct out of here like that. And then there is this retainer plate here for the battery, which can come out just like that. And then we can straight away see that main battery. Now, we are going to want to fold that bit of carpet trim up out of the way. So we'll just fold that up like that. Now, if your vehicle hasn't had the main battery replaced, and you can see I have replaced this with a non-OEM battery myself, you may have to cut along that carpet edge on both sides. That's perfectly normal, so that you can actually get to it and get that battery out. All right, so having exposed the battery, the first thing we are going to do is to remove the retainer. Now to do that, we're going to use a 13mm socket. I've already loosened them off a fraction because I'm recording this one-handed. So pop that socket down there, and then we can just undo the 13mm nut on that side. And then with that fully loosened off, we can move over to the other side, over here, and pop that on there, and we can just undo that there. Now, what you'll then need is some sort of a long needle nose pliers. I've actually got a strong magnet on a stick, which I'll use to lift that whole retaining bracket out there. All right, so that nut's off now, and let's see if we can lift that out. So I pop my magnet down onto that tray, and as you can see, lift that up and hopefully not drop the nuts. And there we go, we've managed to lift that retaining bracket out with the two nuts using our magnetic tool. Alternative, as I said, is to use a long set of needle nose pliers. Now the next thing to do is to remove this vent tube here from the battery. So I will just remove that venting tube just like that, and we can just put that to one side. Importantly, don't forget to reconnect that when you put the battery back in the vehicle. Next thing we're going to do is to remove the negative connection to the battery. You always remove the negative first, folks, and we'll use a 10mm socket to do that. So just using our 10mm socket, we loosen that connection off, and then we should be able to just take that connection straight off and put that to one side. So with the negative terminal off, we can then get our socket onto the positive terminal, and we can undo that one as well. And with that loosened off, we can then remove the positive connection off of the battery and put it to one side, just like that. So with all of those connections off, it's then just a matter of getting the battery out. Now it is a heavy battery, so we just lift it and try to get it out as best we can. All right, so I've just dropped that battery into there. Literally, carefully slid that in, but I did do it off camera because it's so hard, and you saw me when I pulled it out. I've got the positive connection at the rear there firmly fastened, and now it's just a matter of putting the negative connection on. Now what I like to do is just to do this in one solid connection like that, because we don't want that arcing backwards and forwards. So we'll do that up now and should all be good. And of course, don't forget to actually tighten the terminals with your 10mm socket. So a couple of really important things to point out at this stage. This little brown wire here, that actually goes to the auxiliary battery. Now you need to make sure that hasn't fallen off of the negative connection in the process of disconnecting and reinstalling the main battery. If that has fallen off, you will get a battery symbol on your dashboard. And if you get that, just come back and check that brown wire is actually firmly connected there. We also need to connect the vent tube. That's important so that we don't get dangerous gases entering the cabin of the vehicle. And we need to reinstall the retaining plate and the two nuts. Now what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put the retaining plate down. I will drop that down probably off camera. Then I'll show you a trick to get the nuts on, and then we'll finally install that venting tube in that order. Now to get that retaining plate into position, you can see that I've dropped it down with my handy magnet tool there. But what I've deliberately done is I've actually held the vent tube off so that it wasn't underneath that plate, so it doesn't actually get a kink in it. So whilst I've got that in my hand, we can now just put that into the battery like that, and now we'll pop those nuts on. Now a little trick with nuts like this is actually to use some sticky tape. And what we want to do is just put a little bit of sticky tape over the top of the nut like that, because what this is going to do is just fills the little bit of excess gap. And when we get our socket, pop that on there like that, you can see it goes in, however it doesn't fall out, as you can see here. So when we drop that down onto the bracket, because it's such a tight confined space, we'll be able to put that straight on. So we've got our nut in the end of our socket, and we can just guide it straight onto the bolt. We can't actually get our hand down there, but look how easy that is. And thread that on. And then once it goes tight, we can do it up with the socket and then pull it straight off. Of course, we can grab our socket to give it that final tighten. Just moderately tight, and then we can pull it up, and straight away if we look down there, you can see one nut on the retaining bracket. So now we just need to do the other side. All right, so let's get the other side down. So got our nut, got the other one, and just screw that right down till it becomes tight by hand. Chuck our socket on, and then lift it off. Voila. And now we can lift our magnet off, and we are pretty much good to go. So we'll just put the plastics in that we removed, and then we'll test it out. All right, so we start by putting this battery retaining piece of plastic in. It does require a little bit of jiggling. I generally find that if we go in on an angle, it kind of works best. So I just slide it in like that, and then once you get to this point, you can straighten it up, and we should be able to just notch that down and in. Like that. And then that has seated down firmly. And then this air duct needs to go back in, so we just feed that in and around. Like that. And then finally we have this plastic that needs to be clicked back into position. Drop our little piece of passenger carpet back in, and we are done. It's then a matter of sliding the seat back and back down, and we are good to go to start the vehicle and check that everything is normal. All right, so as we can see, the vehicle has started just fine, and the battery auxiliary warning does not appear to be coming back on. And importantly, what I just wanted to show you was that all of the settings in the entertainment system, including connecting to my phone, the time, everything is correct. So there's absolutely no reason for anybody to attempt to hook the vehicle to an external power source whilst doing this job. So there you go, folks. There's how to safely replace the main battery in your Mercedes ML Class vehicle. As I highlighted in the video, do not apply external power to the vehicle. Mercedes don't recommend it, and you could actually do damage. So if you have liked this video, folks, do feel free to like the video, and in the future, if you're interested in any other Mercedes content, or in fact general DIY, do hit that subscribe button. But until next time, have a good evening.